Here we are going to look at the section 3, which is about project lifecycle selection. So what is a project lifecycle? Project lifecycle is actually a series of phases or stages that a project will go through, okay, from its initiation until its termination or its closure. Typically, a project lifecycle phases consists of 5 stages. Okay, the first stage is initiating. The second is planning. The third is executing. The third is controlling and monitoring. And the fifth phase or stage is closing. And these 5 phases, sometimes we also call it as project management process groups. Okay, so let me discuss what does each of these phase do. During the initiating phase, usually the project owner or the project sponsor will create a business case, trying to analyze what is the cost and benefit, the justification for a project, right? And then project owner will also try to identify the right project manager for his or her project. And then during this initiating phase, the project owner and the project manager will develop a project charter. And in this same phase, the stakeholder for this particular project will be identified. All right. And then they will have their first meeting to officially sign off in the project charter to recognize the official existence of this particular project. All right. And then in the planning, it is where the whole project management plan is being developed. And inside a project management plan, we will have the project scope management plan, project schedule or time management plan, project risk management plan, projects procurement management plan, project stakeholder management plan, and various type of management plan will be developed. Okay, and then during the third phase of executing, it is where the project management work. All right, for example, project knowledge management is being carried out. And more importantly, during this executing phase, it is where the actual project work is being carried out. For example, if my project is about developing an information system, then during this executing phase, system analysis, okay, the information system analysis, system design, system coding, system testing, all right, and also the system implementation, all right. This kind of task work, all right, will be actually carried out in this executing phase. And then during the controlling and monitoring phase, what work will be carried out is actually try to validate the project scope, validate, for example, the project cost, and then followed by, for example, controlling project risk, project quality, control project, for example, human resource costs, and so on. And during the closing phase is where the project manager and also the project team member, they are going to make a presentation and ensure that the output from this project is being accepted by the customer or by the project sponsor. Right? So all of these phases, okay, in our project lifecycle, they have their respective kind of work okay, and activities to be carried out. And actually, there are various types of project lifecycle. Okay, the first one, as we can see in this diagram, okay, on the right hand side, they are actually a predictive project lifecycle. And as we can see, this kind of predictive project lifecycle, each phases in the project, they are being organized in a sequential order, in a rigid manner, uh, such as when we go from, for example, from initiating phase to the planning phase, all right, it is not that encouraged, all right, for us to go back to the previous phase. Okay, for example, after if we are already at the executing project phase, it is not encouraged, okay, strongly not encouraged that we go back to the planning. Okay, the same thing apply to the subsequent phases. Usually, when we are at the subsequent phase, we don't usually are being encouraged to go back to the previous. Okay, because the nature of this predictive project life cycle is sequential. All right, such that it is assumed that we know what the project requirement, okay, what the user requirement is, okay, from the very beginning, and therefore we followed, okay, roughly the same requirement throughout the project. And then we also have the second types of project lifecycle, which is the iterative. All right, iterative in the sense that in this iteration, all right, it is feedback is encouraged. Feedback is encouraged in the sense that, for example, if we are in the initiating and then we move to planning, and then during the planning, we are encouraged to get feedback. All right, if there's any problem found during the planning phase, we can it means we get feedback, then we can, okay, and if the feedback require us to reconsider what we have planned, then we can go back to the initiating phase. And same thing will be can be applied to the subsequent phases. You can always go back to the previous phase, all right, and so on. Okay, in short, this kind of iterative project life cycle, sometimes we call it as a feedback driven. Okay, we are allowed to go back. This kind of project life cycle is encouraged if we are not sure of the project requirement. We are not sure of the user requirement throughout. Okay, yeah, throughout the project. All right, which is very different from the predictive, whereby we assume that in the predictive project life cycle, we assume that, all right, starting from the very beginning, we know exactly what we want to do. But in the iterative project life cycle, actually, we know that the users are not too sure of what they require. Okay, they're not too sure of their own requests. Okay, the requirement, for example, in a system or a requirement in an product. Therefore, feedback is encouraged. Okay, and we call it as feedback-driven kind of project life cycle. And then we have the third types of project life cycle, which is incremental. As the name implied, you can see that we have several iterations. All right, and each of these iterations, actually, we can also call it as increment. All right, we have increment 1, increment 2, increment 3, and 4. And if you can pay a careful attention to this inside this loop, all right, inside this increment, we have the so-called waterfall style or the predictive style of project life cycle, right? Right, it has a a sequential order of project phases. inside each increment, right? And then the uniqueness in the increment project lifecycle compared to the predictive is that in our predictive project lifecycle, we will get the final product at the end. We only have one final product or output. But in this increment project lifecycle, as we can see in this diagram, right, we have partial working part in each of this sprint or in each of this iteration.